to do that. Today is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2014. And this is my podcast, not podcast, Be Cool. I'm your host, L.Shima, and if you do not know who I am, then you need to Google me right now. I mean, just kidding. You really don't have to Google me. I would assume you're on here for a reason because you know me and that's how you found this. But if not, definitely Google L.Shima. It's like L.Shima. Anyways, so if this is your first time coming onto my podcast, not podcast, then you probably think this is just an MP3 recording of myself live with the helpful fact of having a chat to talk to people with, which is true for this episode because this is episode 2, but it's actually not just supposed to be MP3. It's actually supposed to be, or audio. I don't know why I'm saying MP3. It's actually supposed to be a live video chat. That's why I'm using Ustream, because Ustream is supposed to be good for that. But I started this chat with everything working, but as soon as I pushed stream, it was just lagging, like ridiculously, to the point where you couldn't even watch it. So I tried to stop the stream and restart it, didn't work. Then I thought, okay, well, it's probably just because I have absolutely no browser open except for my chat. So I tried to delete as much stuff as possible, thinking it's just a lot of space that's being taken up on my computer. Nothing. And then I tried actually restarting my computer. Nothing. So it's like one of those issues that you're like, I'm trying to figure out, but I'm also live at the second, and everyone else is like waiting for me to actually like start the video and stop messing around. But realistically, I was trying my hardest, and for whatever reason, it wasn't working. I even had Childish Gambino, World Star playing in the intro. Man, I was having a ball with this, and it just did not work. So, I'm just doing an audio. Hopefully, by next Wednesday, I will figure this out. And it will be the best thing to ever happen, literally to ever happen. So I apologize to anyone and everyone that arrived on time or early to my podcast, not podcast. That's what I'm calling it. And that witnessed the total meltdown that happened with it not working. I mean, I didn't really melt down. It's just in my head. I was freaking out and like just cussing the world out. There was a couple points where it wasn't working and I just would say fuck, and then I'd realize, oh man, I just said fuck in a weird way, but whatever. So anyways, Be Cool is now the new title to my podcast, not podcast. One day I will figure out a name for this, but I mean, like, because it's not a podcast, because a podcast is just audio, or it's audio and video. But right now, not including today, but right now I usually just have the video, so it's not really a podcast. So I'm trying to think of like a term that's like new to use, but right now it's just podcast, not podcast. But yeah, the new title is Be Cool. It took me a freaking long time to figure out a name for it, and I am proud of the new title name, Be Cool. Actually, I really do think Francis thought of that title. I went through like different terms and different things to figure out the title for this show, and Francis helped me towards the end of it. Andy, my roommate, or our roommate, even tried to chime in a little bit, but like nothing was working, and everything that I liked, they didn't like, and all this other stuff. So I ended up just searching, sorry, I'm like thinking of terms, searching for the right title for this, and I eventually thought of Be Cool. So yay! Awesome! This is fantastic. So the reason why today's show is going to be badass before it ended up turning into ass is for the fact that I was going to talk primarily about modeling. every week I have a new topic and a new feature that I will be talking about for the entire hour. And so it ended up this week was going to be modeling. And better way to start talking about modeling is to talk about how I personally started. So let's begin. It's so hard without my video because now it's just to the point where I'm literally actually just talking to myself. But that's fine. I'm used to talking to myself a lot. Just not as out loud and not as like boisterous as I am right now. But that's fine because I love y'all so much that I will do any weird audio audio thing, audio show, podcast thing. Okay, sorry, I'm rambling now. So, like I mentioned earlier, if you don't know who I am, Google me. My name is L.Shima. Um, I'm literally born, raised Austin, Texas, and people always ask me, how did I get started with modeling? What made me start modeling? Things along those lines. I started as soon as I turned 18, and I never really wanted to start before 18 because I just didn't want my mother coming with me because I would just think that would be awkward. Not that my mom is like a bad person or anything. It's just I get really awkward super easily. So I thought, having my mother with me would just still be pretty awkward. So I waited until I was 18 so I could legally go back to photo shoots by myself. But I never really started for any reason other than the fact that I just kind of wanted to try it. I wanted to see how it was or what it was like to become a model, to actually say as a career path, I'm a model, or as a job, I'm a model. So I was really fascinated with that idea, and I knew one girl that I went to school with that actually was in a few music videos and things like that. And so I asked her, I'm like, oh, how did you get started with modeling? And she's just like, oh, I just created a Model Mayhem account and went from there. So I didn't know what Model Mayhem was whatsoever. So I Googled it, got to the site, and it looked super cheesy, I'm not gonna lie. It was a simple, like, website design. Wasn't very elegant in my personal opinion, but it had a lot of photographers on it. It had a lot of models on it. So I figured, it would be a great place to start. So, with that said, I created my first Model Mayhem account. And it's self-explanatory. You sign up, you write a bio about yourself, you put your measurements, type of photo shoots that you're interested in, and you also add images to your portfolio. Well, at this point, I didn't have any images for my portfolio whatsoever. The only images that I technically had was my senior graduation photos that my mother took and my boyfriend at the time took for me. And they were not like professional, serious photos. Obviously they were nice photos, but they weren't high quality. So now was the point of figuring out, how am I going to start this new path that I'm intrigued with? So once I created the Model Mayhem account, for whatever reason, just a shit ton of photographers messaged me right off the bat. Like, I literally signed up for the first 5 minutes, and then tons of photographers messaged me. So I had to go through each message and figure out, okay, this person's portfolio is okay, this and that and this and that. I eventually rolled upon a few photographers that had decent work and that were willing to shoot trade. So if you don't understand the term trade, it basically means free in a sense, not really. The short term, especially online, the abbreviation for trade is TF. Basically what that means is I, as a model, will shoot trade with a photographer for photos. So we will take our own time to equal that to photos. I'm like trying to think of the easiest way to say it, but I'm like brain dead from all that's just happened within the past hour. Basically, if you're a photographer and you want to shoot trade for me, you're not going to pay me any money. I am not going to pay you any money, but the only compensation that we would basically be giving each other is our time and the photos. So as a model, I will be giving the photographer my time and I guess like my, my physical self to give you art for your photos in which you will give me a certain amount of photos for the time that I gave you, if that makes sense. So, with that said, I feel like I'm saying that term a lot. I basically found a couple photographers that were willing to shoot trade. The first ever photo shoot I went to, oh my Lord have mercy, was the most, looking back on it, it was just cheesy beyond cheesy. I wore this horrible outfit that I shouldn't have been wearing because it made me look pregnant in photos. And I brought my boyfriend at the time with me because of the fact that you're going into a situation where you're going to be by yourself with some random person you found online who is going to have a camera and is going to shoot you. You may be out in the public or you may not be. You might be in their studio or their studio might be in their house. So you're in these weird situations that are technically wouldn't be safe. So this is my first photo shoot, so I wanted to bring a quote-unquote escort, and that is the term that you will hear a lot. Escort meaning you are allowed to, or you bringing somebody with you, such as your significant other, your friend, your mother, some type of family member, somebody that you trust that can protect you or make you feel comfortable at all times. So I brought my boyfriend at the time, and the photographer was a sweetheart. He really was. It just wasn't the best shoot of my life. And like back then I had my hair like pretty short, like to my ears, maybe a little longer actually, to my like shoulders. That's how short my hair was. I'm sure my hair was red at that time. So when I did the shoot, it went peachy perfectly fine. Did the shoot with my boyfriend too, so we did like the couple photos too. I don't know why, but we did that. And I received the photos back because that was the deal. He was going to give me photos, I was going to give him my time. And I instantly posted the photos that I personally liked onto my Model Mayhem portfolio. I even think I posted it on my Facebook too to show like people like, oh, look at me, I'm a model. But now looking back on it, I wish I didn't never even posted those photos because man, those were not the best photos of me. So from there, it went to another photographer, and the same deal. The photographer was, in my personal opinion, a lot better than the one my first photo shoot happened. This time I didn't bring an escort because I didn't see a reason to. I got a good feeling from this photographer, didn't think anything wrong was going to happen. And it ended up being a great photo shoot. The guy was sweet, and again, he gave me my photos. So from there, you basically just keep shooting as often as possible, trying to work your way up to a badass portfolio. And that takes time, especially if you're starting modeling. Don't think this is all going to happen in one day. I mean, I know that people say that a lot, but literally, it doesn't even happen within a year. You got to give it a lot of time to actually figure yourself out and figure the industry out. I mean, I've been doing it since I turned 18, and I just turned 22 yesterday, and I'm still figuring this out. There are days where I want to pull my hair out, but I stick through it. And all the nice, awesome comments that I get on Tumblr and Twitter and all those social sites that I have from you awesome fans make my day even much better because I'm like glad that y'all actually enjoy what I'm doing. And even on top of it, how you react to my personality or how I sound or my looks or something, it makes me blush every time, and I try to sound so sincere on every question that I answer, and even on my currently podcast. I like to make sure that I'm trying to be engaging to y'all as much, and interacting as much as possible. So starting out, it's not easy. You're going to shoot with tons of photographers, tons. And I was only shooting in the Austin area, and if you look on Model Mayhem, or if you even just Google probably photographers in Austin, you'll see tons of names just roll out. If you even search through models, you'll search through thousands of models on in just Austin, and Austin's not even a huge city to begin with. So for you to also stand out is important in the industry. I think I just stand out just because of my looks, and I didn't want just my looks to make me stand out, but I mean, I am of ethnicity. I am not just one race. I am a multiple race. I am a mutt, and I love my mutt ways. Um, but on top of it, you need to stand out by your personality. Just because you're a model does not mean you can be a diva. Girl, don't do it. Don't do it at all. I can't stand people that are like that. I try my hardest not to be a diva either. I literally go beyond trying to make sure I'm not being spoiled, I'm not being conceited, I'm again not being a diva of any kind. You need to be yourself, and yeah, if you are legitimately a diva in real life, then okay, you're being yourself at least. But you got to keep in mind that you're going to be dealing with a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to make you upset and make you want to punch them in the face. But you got to hold your composure, and you got to be as sweet and sincere as you can. That is important. On top of that, you need to make sure that you are professional. I try to make sure on Tumblr and all my social sites that I make it clear that professionalism is important in this industry. And later on, I'll go more in depth about why professionalism is so important, because it seems like nowadays nobody even understands what professionalism even is. So once I started getting my portfolio with a few images, it was now the time to figure out really what I wanted to do with this career choice. Or this at this time it was just a hobby. So I ended up you know, doing a whole bunch of random gigs, from doing glamour. As soon as I turned 18, I actually did my first artistic nude figure drawing, and that's actually how I met Francis. But that was a different level, because at a point, either it be in the beginning of you deciding you want to be a model, or it's a little bit later throughout your career, you need to decide which genre of modeling you want to be a part of. There's so many different genres. There's fashion, there's glamour, there's nude, artistic nudes, there's fetishes, there's, I mean, porn even counts. There's so many different genres. There's fitness. Sorry, I'm like thinking of it as I'm talking. There's fitness, there's promotional work, there's being hosts at certain events and things like that. There's so many different genres, and you have to decide which one works for you and which one you will feel more comfortable pursuing. For me, when I first started, of course, it was going to be fashion. It was going to be glamour, and the other one was going to be nudity. I never ever shot nude in front of anyone before until I started modeling. And I remember my first nude photo shoot, and holy hell, I was nervous. I don't even know why I decided to do nudity. It just was intriguing to me. It was the fact that the human body is something that should be viewed and shouldn't be looked down upon. It shouldn't be idolized as something sexual. It's a work of art, it's a masterpiece, and it's unique because it's your own body, and your body is not going to be the same as this person next to you. So I wanted to try it out. I saw photos of other females posing nude, and I wanted to get that feeling of how it's like to pose nude in front of a random person that I've never met, that has a camera between that person and me, and is shooting me constantly while I'm in poses and stuff. So my first photo shoot was nerve-wracking, but literally after the first 5 minutes of being completely nude, it just felt natural. It felt fine. With that said, though, I personally do not like being nude in public whatsoever unless I know the public is completely fine with nudity. But it just didn't feel like it was a burden for me. It felt just normal, and I actually enjoyed it. It just felt like I'm releasing my body and just being like this natural person in this natural environment. Well, sometimes it's not really a natural environment, but being in this environment that didn't feel so stressed or anything like that. And so ever since that first day, I decided I'm gonna keep pursuing this nudity with glamour and as well as fashion. So I started actually with doing figure modeling for the art department, which was located in one of their studios was located in Austin. And I remember the day where I messaged this artist named Francis Flejo saying that I'm interested in what he has to offer after reading his bio, and he was mentioning that he, has needs figure models pretty much almost daily. So he said he was totally uh, up to have me as a figure model for one of the sessions, but since they've never worked with me before, they wanted me to be fully clothed, and we'll start off with portraits. Since also I'd never done figure modeling before that either, so it was kind of getting like allowing me to get a better feeling for how it will be like and things like that. And child, I will say this: I did not know what I was getting myself into. I walked inside the door. I saw Francis for the first time, and yes, I will admit, I thought he was the most adorablest, hottest little thing that ever walked this planet. But I try to make sure that part of my brain was not like giving off my body or anything like that. So I tried to keep it as professional as possible. Shook his hand with a firm, nice grip, smiled, nice, happy, very bubbly, things like that. And so when I got into the studio, they were still setting up, but what the art department was, it was a online school that also had a few studios around the United States that allowed figure modeling, and so there were students there that could sketch figure models and also work on their schoolwork. So there was not only Francis, but there was his good friend and our good friend now, Orlando Sanchez, and then a few other students that were around. So I ended up posing a few times, and I will say if you're starting off, from my personal opinion, you should definitely try figure modeling for the fact that you are put into this situation where you are on a pedestal, a stool, or some type of platform, smack dab in the middle of a room with more than maybe between 3 to 20 different artists drawing you at the same exact time. So they're circling you, and you have to hold poses for maybe 15 seconds, maybe up to 30 seconds, all the way up to 10-minute poses. And they change. Francis at the art department would constantly, he would tell me beforehand, hey, we're about to do a 50-second pose. Or, okay, we're going to add it up to 30 seconds. Okay, now we're going to do a minute poses. Now we're going to do 2-minute poses. And all the way up until, I think the max that I've ever posed for the art department was 10 minutes. Actually, I think it was 30 minutes, and I got to sleep. Anyways, but you have to understand that one pose that you will be doing, you have to keep in mind that there's a ton of artists that are getting a completely different angle than your front face. So you have to make sure the people that are getting a really bad angle of you, switch your body around to make sure that they get a decent angle of you. And if you do not know what angle you're giving them, once you have a break time, go up to them and talk to them and see what kind of work they've been drawing. Sometimes it won't be good, and sometimes you'll be like, oh my god, I really look like that right now. But they will show you exactly what type of angles you are giving them. On top of that, it allows you to quickly think of constant poses in your head, because 15 seconds, man, that will go fast. And then within, even minute poses, that whole minute, yeah, you're thinking, oh my God, this might be painful because you're holding a weird pose for a minute. And in your head, you're like, oh, a minute's quick. It will go by so super fast. But realistically, no. That takes so much time and just so much thinking is going in your head as far as what pose am I going to be doing next that will allow everyone to be able to get a different angle of myself. And I feel like that helped me majorly when it came to modeling, for the fact that, nowadays I can do tons of poses, but I will kind of understand what poses work for my body, and it allows me to experiment with different poses that I have never tried before. It allows me to give the photographer a whole new grasp, a good hold of different things they can shoot with, using myself as the canvas that they can play around with. So if you're ever just getting into modeling, I highly recommend trying figure modeling. Even if it's just a clothed figure modeling session, you don't even have to be nude. Doing it clothed, I think it's going to be very, very beneficial for your career in modeling. And I just can't say it enough. I literally can't whatsoever. Um, but once I started getting into it a little bit more heavy, I decided it was time to not make this modeling just a hobby. I wanted to make it more of a career, and that was one of the most scariest things in my entire career. For the fact that at that moment of my life, I was working two jobs, and for me going to two jobs to one job that I do not know how much I'm going to get paid. I don't know when I'm going to be shooting next. I don't know, you know, anything that's going to happen except for what I personally can control myself. That scared me, because you come from a job that is either, the standard 9 to 5 job, or it's just the standard 8 hour, work schedule, 5 to 7 times a week, that will pay you, let's say, $8.25 minimum wage. You know that you're going to possibly get, you definitely know you'll be getting paid every 2 weeks at this amount of money for this amount of time at this specific location. You already know. You're already set. You have a schedule. My life now, I technically have a schedule, but I have to make it myself. And I don't even live with the same schedule constantly. It's always changing. It never stays the same. So when I started to begin modeling as a career, freaked me out. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how to time my schedule right. I didn't know how to even become my own personal boss. I had to make sure that I was dedicated, motivated, and just really focused on this new career choice that I made. So once I got my first major paying gigs during South by Southwest, that's what allowed me to decide I want to actually make modeling a serious thing. Because I got to actually experience being paid as a model, and that takes time. Don't think when you start out, oh, I shoot one photo and I have my portfolio all set, I'm going to now ask for money every time. Yeah, you can definitely do it. It's on you. That's your choice to make, but I personally would have to disagree. You are going to have to shoot trade for a while until you are able to get paid. You might have one lucky moment where a random photographer will pay you, but you are going to have to fight a lot of battles until you're able to get paid from a realistic gig. For the fact that you will be involved with a lot of photographers that will love your look, but they will be very snooty with the fact that they don't pay models. So you're dealt with the fact that you're just going to have to shoot trade for a while. And it took me, I started at 18. I think I literally got my first paying gig 6 months to a year after I started. That's not including figure modeling, because figure modeling I actually knew I was going to get paid $15 an hour, which at that time that sounded like a pretty hard amount of money. So, oh, thinking about it now. Anyways, so it's not going to happen as soon as you did your first trade shoot. You're going to have to shoot a lot of trades. And being into this career as far as I've been so far, I still shoot trades. I'm more picky about it, but I still do shoot trades when I can, and if it's the right opportunity. The further you get in this career, the more you'll have an understanding of what a high quality image is, and you'll have a better understanding of professionalism. Not only for yourself, but from others. You will be able to tell when somebody is a professional individual. And it will take time to understand that. A lot about modeling, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't. And the major part about modeling that a lot of people do not understand, especially ones that are just the standard person that works the regular 9 to 5 hours, or is a stay-at-home mom, or is a doctor at some prestigious medical hospital of some sort. Anytime somebody hears the term, "Oh, I'm a model," they instantly think that person, either it be a female or a male, just thinks they are the most gorgeous person in the entire world that just shoots photos, and that's pretty much it, and they get paid for that. Technically, I guess you can say that's true. I mean, we do shoot photos, and there's times when we do get paid for it. And I guess there's times when we can be gorgeous. But there's so much more to modeling than what meets the eye. Literally. I say literally so much. But realistically, my daily life with modeling consists of being on the computer 24/7, 7 days a week. And if I'm not on my computer, then I'm on my phone, checking all my social media sites, Twitter, Tumblr, email, Facebook even other sites. If there's other sites that have posted me, I'm checking that constantly, looking at the comments, what people have to say about me. And on top of it, I'm constantly researching other models, other photographers all around the world, getting a better understanding of who's popular currently, why are they popular, who should be popular, who do I, enjoy looking at the most. And not only about researching, but I also make sure I'm also networking like crazy. And that is the biggest one that you're going to have to deal with, is networking. Especially if you are a freelance independent model such as myself, I am constantly networking every single second of my life. I don't have an agent, I don't have a manager behind the scenes doing it for me. I am the one talking to everyone that is messaged me on any type of social platform that I have. You are most likely talking to me. And that's what a lot of people do not understand. This is a career, this can be a hobby, it can be whatever you make it to be. But if you're going to be a freelance independent model, you best believe that this is a brand, this is a business that you created for yourself, that you have to control from the ground up. If you ask any business person who ever created a store or anything along those lines, they didn't just start with this big expensive store. They had to take so many steps to get to where they are. And a lot of steps that don't even require the type of store they run. So say, it's an actual restaurant. Majority of the store owners of that restaurant, if they are at the actual chef themselves, majority of the time, they don't even actually cook. because they are making sure that their finances are in order, that the guests are happy, that the behind the scenes, business is running smoothly, and then they get into the actual artistic side of cooking the delicious food that you stuff in your mouth. The same goes for modeling. Yes, I will have a photo shoot, and yes, I will actually be the model in front of a camera, posing in all these awesome ways that will turn into these glorious photos that you will eventually see on my social media site. But behind the scenes of that is where the actual dirty work comes into play. So if you are trying to be a model and you think it's going to be an easy peasy lemon squeezy situation where you just get to play dress up all day and be this glorious person, that will maybe happen for maybe about 5 minutes out of the entire year. It's mostly going to be on the computer, researching, networking, being social with your fans, which I feel like is a very important situation. But it's just not as sugar-coated as everyone thinks it is. And you have to be a different type of person to be loving this career, because it is really painful sometimes. But it is definitely worth it, especially me looking back in my past of modeling. I'm proud to have gotten where I am. I mean, there's times where I feel like I'm not even succeeding enough right now. And there's people telling me, man, you just turned 22. You're doing really well for being so young. And in my head, I'm like, I feel like I can be better than this. Like, I feel like I should be like at a higher point right now. If it either be just quote unquote famous, beyond quote unquote rich, whatever, happy. I feel like I should be at a different platform. But Francis has to keep me, realize that I'm actually doing pretty awesome from where I stand right now in my modeling career. So with that said, obviously, modeling is not the most easiest thing that you can get into. You will have basically quote unquote haters, people that just hate you because they want to hate you. You'll have photographers that just want to make your day a living hell. I've had countless photographers end up telling me when I tell them, they would be looking to shoot trade with me, which is fine. If you want to shoot trade with me, feel free to ask. It never hurts to ask. You know how many photographers I ask to shoot trade with? A lot. So don't feel afraid to ask a model, if you're a photographer, to shoot trade. Same goes with you being a model. Don't be scared or worried to ask somebody to shoot trade with you. The worst case scenario, they'll say no. The best case scenario, if they say no, is sorry, just like tongue-tied on my words. They might actually look at your portfolio and at least just see one image of you, and that's all that matters, because they will see your name or they'll see an image of you, and that might just trigger in their head, and that might be a good start. But if they say no, they say no, and you move forward. But I've gotten photographers that can't handle that. They ask me to shoot trade, and I nicely tell them that, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm currently not accepting trade. If you are curious, I wouldn't mind sharing my rates. I give that same spiel every time when I just can't accept trade. And there's photographers that are really sweet about it and are totally fine with it and are curious about my rates, and they'll ask me. And then, from there they might or may not say that works, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't. But if it does, then I get a paid opportunity, and that's awesome. But then you'll get the ones that you tell them that you are not accepting trade, and you quote them your rates after, they said that's totally fine. And I've had some that just stuck up their nose saying, oh, Lord have mercy, you are not worth any of those pennies whatsoever. You need to do this with your life. You need to you need to lose weight, clean your skin, brush your hair, whatever, whatever, whatever. They'll basically critique me without me giving them permission to critique me, which is fine. Realistically, they're doing that purposely to make me upset, to respond negatively to them. And I will let you know now, if that ever happens to you, of any kind, if there's even fans that aren't your fans that are just being total assholes to you, or if there is a photographer that is being stuck up, or even a model that's being stuck up, and they're just trying to push your buttons, never respond with a negative reply. Always be positive, because most likely they only do that because they want to get something out of you. They want to raise your blood pressure. So when you reply as nicely as possible and as in a positive way, that will make them even more mad, and that will relieve your stress, because now you know they are probably pissed off because they were looking for some crazy fighting drama that they're not going to get. But I've had tons of photographers stuck up their nose saying, oh, you're not worth any of those pennies, or I can't believe you try to quote me your rates. I don't pay models, I get paid. And yes, that was an actual quote from a photographer, was saying, I don't pay models, I get paid. My response is like, bro, that's fabulous. That's awesome that you get paid. I, as well, get paid myself. But there's times when we just gotta make a dollar, and I understand that, we're in a tough economy and we're just trying to live and pay our rent and eat food. But you gotta understand that that's not the appropriate way to go about saying, I'm sorry, I can't afford you. Don't be that person that is rude to others just because you didn't get what you wanted. Again, I have messaged countless photographers over the years to ask to shoot trade with. And surprisingly, just kidding, but surprisingly, I have gotten a lot of no's and a lot of photographers saying, hey, here's my rates. And you know how I respond? I always respond positive about it, saying, so-and-so, I really appreciate you, giving your time and responding to my email. I looked over your rates and I completely understand. Unfortunately, I'm not in the best financial spot to afford your rates. If at any point down the line I'm able to, pay your rates, then I will definitely let you know. Otherwise, thank you for your time and best wishes. But a lot of people don't understand that. They don't get that. But I try my hardest to be as positive as possible to everyone. And a lot of questions that people always ask me, well, not as much, but it's one of the main ones that when you start off with modeling, you know nothing about, is the fact, how much should I charge? Especially when you start out, it's a really hard answer because everyone's different. You're not going to have the same rates as this so-and-so model at all. Your rate might be lower, your rate might be higher. Your rate just might be exactly the same, but it's never going to be the same. Once you got to the point where you're, gotten a really professional, high quality portfolio, and you're able to charge for your services, go for it. Make up a number that you think is reasonable for yourself and try it. If people say, oh my God, that's awesome, I'm totally going to book you, then keep it at that rate, because that means that rate works for where you stand in your career at that moment. If you have people saying, oh, no, I can't afford that, or no, you're not worth it, then maybe consider lowering the rates. Just for the fact that you may be overpricing yourself. And one day you'll be able to charge that rate, but at that moment, that's not the appropriate rate for yourself with the portfolio that you had at that moment. And if so many photographers or people in the industry agree to that rate, and you have so many people just saying, oh my God, I can definitely afford that, oh my God, that's so awesome, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, then you might have to look into upping your rate a little bit, because then you might be low charging yourself. So it's kind of just, you got to test it out. You got to see what works. If I told you what I used to get paid, it's not going to be the same as what you're going to be getting paid, especially when the economy keeps changing the way it does. And on top of it, your rate needs to stay consistent for a while. Stay consistent with your portfolio. But as your portfolio improves, then you have the right to change your rates to whatever fits appropriately to your portfolio. So, with that said, I charge a certain amount of rates currently right now, but if I start getting a better, higher quality amount of images for my portfolio, then my rate will most likely go up. If for whatever reason I start shooting really low quality images from here on now, then my rate will have to go down. But you have to keep in mind that just because you have 5 awesome images that you just recently shot, don't think your portfolio is done forever. You need to be constantly updating your portfolio every week, every month. I don't care how often it is, as long as you're updating it and it's being current with what you look like at that moment. On top of it, don't post every single image that you would get from a photographer. Just don't. It's not about how many images you've ever shot with in your life. It's about quality over quantity, and that is a true statement. If you look on my portfolio on Model Mayhem, well, don't look on Model Mayhem because I didn't pay my bill. But if you look on my Tumblr, yes, I have tons of photos that I've posted, but that is not my portfolio. That is Tumblr. That is a site that I used to show my fans my current work of art. If you go to my Modelgram, that is my portfolio. And if you go to it currently, I probably have about less than 10 or so photos on it. You shouldn't have more than it's always different, but I personally think you shouldn't have more than 25 to 30 images in your portfolio. I feel like even that is on the verge of too much, because within 25 to 30 photos, the art director, the agent, the manager, the photographer, whoever they are in the industry, that's a good amount of photos for them to get a great idea of who you are, as long as they are top-notch photos. Yeah, you can put 25 to 30 photos that are really shitty, but you have to keep in mind what those people see are not you in person. They are seeing you in photos from photographers that shot you. So you have to keep in mind with what people are looking at, how is that going to perceive of yourself? If I even said that in a weird way. But with modeling, I can talk decades with modeling. Seriously, I can get in so many arguments with modeling. I can talk for hours about it. I love it. I mean, I'm glad I love it, because if I didn't love it, then why am I even doing this? But it's an awesome career, and the longer this not podcast, goes on, the more in depth I will get into modeling. And on top of it, like I mentioned in episode 1, I will have special guests appear. And those special guests will be models, they will be photographers, they will be artists, there will be other people in this industry, and maybe some that aren't in this industry, that will give you a view of their career from themselves. And everybody's different. Hell, I think that you should start figure modeling first and then, do photo shoots. But then there might be another model that says, oh, fuck figure modeling. You should just, go to a modeling school. You have tons of people with their own opinions about their career. And that opinion is what works for them. So throughout this podcast's life, if you are a model, if you are a photographer, if you are anyone that's just fascinated with this industry, you need to keep in mind that these topics and these opinions are just what they are. They are opinions, and everybody is completely different. And one thing might work for you, but not work for the other person. So you just got to keep trying and figure out what personally works best for you and keep it that way until you find something that's better or you find something that's more awesome or something. I don't know. But anyways, I feel like this entire podcast, not podcast, I was like super serious because I can seriously get super like stern with modeling. Like last episode I was like laughing and like being a goofball. This episode I feel like I'm like straight face, just staring into the camera even though you can't even see me, and like being so stern with everything I'm talking about. But realistically, you have to have fun with it. Don't let it put you down. Be happy and just have fun with it. Don't be so serious all the time because then you're just going to be this serious Nancy. All such things. But I will finish off with my life story of modeling most likely next week. And I swear to baby Jesus, if I do not get my live video chat working by next week, I am going to literally, I don't know, I don't want to be very graphic with my term right now. I literally want to say something, but I literally will just pull my hair out. So Wednesday will still happen at 10 p.m. Eastern. I don't care if I can't do video for whatever reason. I will be doing audio, and fine. I'll just be an audio podcast. That's totally fine. But I would still like to be a live video chat. So hopefully I will figure my video situation out next week. And I really appreciate everyone that stopped on by throughout this recording, even though I went way past 11. I started super late. I am so effing sorry for anyone that did miss out and couldn't actually be live and that were there and that I'm like getting tongue-tied and that we're here actually on time at 10 p.m. I do apologize, but I hope you did enjoy not seeing my face for the first time and actually just enjoyed listening to me talk about modeling. As far as the ending of this goes, I just wanted to basically just quickly go over my awesome week that I've had. If you do not know, yesterday was my 22nd birthday. Yay! See, if the video was on, I would have asked you, do I look 22? But my video's not on, so you can't really see me, so you don't know what I look like right now. But on Sunday, Francis surprised me with a birthday party, and I really feel like that was my first surprise party. I feel like if I told my mom that, my mom would be like, no, you had a surprise birthday when you were like 5. But obviously wouldn't remember. So I would say I was surprised, but not surprised. Because we live in a house, and he was trying to figure out, he thought, oh, I'll just send her off to do something while he gets the house ready and, everybody comes. But then he realized, well, if she rolls up into the driveway, there's going to be all these people's cars. So obviously I was going to figure it out. So he had to take me on a trip to, go to Target and the grocery store. But I couldn't come inside with him because it had to be a quote-unquote surprise. And that by the time we got home, I needed to get ready and wear an outfit like I was going to graduation. That was his term. And basically stay in my room, my studio. Well, you can't see me, dang it. My studio, though, and listen to really loud music and not come out of the room until he calls me. And so I'm like, all right. Kind of in my head, I'm like, I know something's going on, but, I want to keep that surprise moment to myself. So he finally comes to the time where he allows me to get out of the room, but I had to cover my eyes and all that other stuff. And as soon as he said, okay, you can peek, I assumed I already knew my brother and sister-in-law and my nephews were going to be here. But one of the surprises I didn't expect was our friend George Pratt and his 2 kids. And I was like really caught off guard at that second. And as soon as I opened my eyes, I don't know why, but I started to cry. I am such an emotional person. It's ridiculous. I hate myself sometimes of how emotional I am. But I started crying, and then I finally, like, after a minute, I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cry. I don't even know why. I just cried, but I did. But that was on Sunday, and we spent like a nice little party and things like that. Got pizza, got ice cream cake, yeah. Got was a fatty for a day. Um, and then on Tuesday, yesterday, that was part two of my birthday, and he ended up surprising me with going to Adventure Island and then also going to Goodwill. And that's when I scooped up these awesome earrings that I mentioned earlier on this podcast, not podcast. And on top of it, ended up well, I'm drawing blanks right now. Oh, and then ended up taking me to a nice dinner. So it was a really sweet little surprised birthday that he gave me, and I was super happy about it. And there was times when I kind of figured it out, but you know, I still kept that surprised like look and expression and stuff like that. And on top of it, today I did strong lifts 5 by 5. Last week I mentioned it, went like over it for like 30-45 minutes. But today I did squats and bench press and barbell rows. Holy crap. I've officially gotten my first blisters on my hands. I feel like a pro now. Like I feel like an awesome savage that I get blisters on my hand. I mean, they're not super serious, but they're there and they're serious. Um so I maybe should wear gloves because I don't think that's really attractive to have photos and like my hands all like scabby and peely and blistery. That's super hot. Um, but that felt like really like awesome. At the time, it didn't feel awesome because I'm like, damn it, my hands hurt and I have these damn fucking blisters. But just thinking of how badass blisters can really mean, it's pretty badass. I'm trying to think what else like happened in my life this week other than this podcast not working. The first 30 minutes, it still doesn't work, but whatever, the audio will work for now. And I really hope that y'all enjoyed this. I'm sorry this wasn't, again, the best thing in the entire world, but I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad that you stuck with me, and hopefully the ones that are listening 5 days later, I hope you enjoyed listening to me chit chat about stuff. And next week we'll still be on Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern. So I will see all of y'all little lovebirds then. And I will post this online to announce that I still did the live video chat, but it wasn't live. So to check out the recording later. So I will leave y'all to be, and I will see y'all next week. So I appreciate it. I swear next week will be so much better. It will be so much better. Just bear with me. I'm still figuring this out. This is episode 2. So, alright, everyone. So, have a superb, awesome evening, and I will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.